Thursday afternoon, everybody. It's Jim. It's Amadeus, and welcome. It's a slow day in soccer, so we got a lot of stuff to talk about, Amadeus. Where do you want to go first, bud? You're driving the
Yeah.
bus. You tell me where you want to go.
All right. Well, yeah, it's a really slow day, so we can touch on the weekend quickly for
Mhm.
the soccer coming up. Obviously, we've got the Leagues Cup final coming up on Saturday, and then the MLS will be back on the Sunday. But yeah, it looks like we got Nashville Inter Miami. Inter Miami right now is a early -125 favorite, so
Hmm.
probably jump on that before that moves up because I don't know who's stopping this Miami train, Jim. The way it's been playing right now.
Um, I think that's going to be fun, no doubt about it. And I think that we're going to be seeing a lot of interesting things going on here over the weekend. Women's World Cup, the final of that will be taking place, and we've got, as you said, uh, tons of meaningful soccer early in the season coming up. So that's not a bad thing. Um, and now we also there's a lot of preseason football coming up in the NFL where we get to see a little bit of something and what's going to happen. And then, as we talked about in the pre-show, we're only 8 or 9 days away from the college football season kicking off. And for me, that's exciting because I have always been a fan of college football. And doesn't mean I don't like pro, it just means I follow a ton of colleges and over, from across the country and enjoy the game. And I'm curious, is college football, U.S. college football, viewed a great deal in Canada, or is that just something that nobody cares about?
Yep, it's definitely an exciting time. A lot of Canadians, just as they love the NFL, they love college football. And personally, all my buddies, we
Mhm.
like college football way more than we like the CFL. We don't even watch the CFL. So yeah, but it all depends on the person too. I know tons of people that love the CFL and they
Mhm.
love college and NFL as well. I know people that don't watch college football obviously because it can be
Mhm.
overwhelming with the number
Mhm.
of schools and things like that. But yeah, definitely an exciting time for everybody who loves
Now,
football in
do you have
general.
absolutely? Do you have a favorite college football team or conference you follow or something like that?
Yeah, definitely a conference I follow, the Big Ten for sure. If I
Okay,
had to pick, really, I have no horse in the race because
right.
I'm Canadian. I'm not an alumni at any of these schools, but if I had to pick one, I guess I do root for Michigan to do well each year. But yeah, I know it's a controversial one, Jim. It's controversial, but
Hey, I spent 2 years doing Michigan football for ABC and Big Ten football, and so I've spent a lot of time in Ann Arbor, and this should be of no surprise to anyone. Okay, and that is the number of Canadians who attend Michigan is amazing. I mean, they've got a wonderful um, you know alumni base and very active group of Michigan followers all throughout Ontario. I mean, if you want to go to a college in the United States and you're in Ontario, you're probably going to Michigan. And it's you if you go there on a game day with 104,000 of your closest friends, um, you will see a lot of Ontario license plates in the parking lot at the big house. So you picked a good one. There's no doubt about it. Coach Harbaugh seems to feel that he's got a team this year that can compete, and they're ranked in the preseason polls. And we all know preseason polls aren't necessarily a good gauge of what's going to happen. But they're certainly in that number 2 slot. And look, Michigan, Michigan always recruits well, and I think Jim's going to have a decent football team up there with the Wolverines in Ann Arbor. So that's not a bad pick on your part.
Yeah, definitely. So if I had to go with the one school, Michigan, and also honestly, Jim, Alabama, big Roll Tide guy. I love that's more so. I like Nick Saban a lot.
Yeah.
So Alabama is definitely a team that is close to my heart as well.
We won't be speaking again. No, I'm just kidding. As a Florida Gator fan and also USF Bull fan, it's been a tough year. It's going to be a tough season for the Gators. But look, Roll Tide. You can't take away what Saban has done. And think about this. He was at LSU first. Then he went to Miami to coach the Dolphins. By the way, where he had a 2-2 record against Belichick. Belichick, of course, in New England. And they're actually, the ironic thing is they're best friends. They spend a lot of time together. Families get together. And so it's not, if you know Saban, he is basically Belichick with a personality. Okay. So Nick's good, and Alabama's a good football team. So Michigan and Alabama, you picked number 2 and number 4. That's not a bad quinella there, my friend.
Well, also to be fair, Jim, I tend to like teams that get a lot of hate.
Oh, okay.
Because as I said, I don't have a horse in the race. I like
Right.
Michigan. They get nothing but hate a lot of the time, right? And same with Alabama, right? And I think a lot of it, like Tom Brady is a great example. I love Tom Brady. And a big reason why I like Tom Brady and I like him everywhere he goes is because everybody hates on him. Everybody loves to hate on greatness. So I'm just one of those people, I like to like greatness.
Well, that would be a nice thing. The funny thing about this conference realignment that we had, just that we've gone through, that may very well, and I'll give us here a little bit of a scoop here that I just put out on Twitter, and that is the ACC will decide within the next 24 to 48 hours if they're going to invite Stanford, Cal, and SMU to join the conference in 2024. So that will come down within before the end of the weekend, and we will know if Stanford, Cal, and SMU will be going to the ACC. I say that to say this, and that is that will literally put an end to the Pac-12, which had been in existence for 105 years. So that conference is dust and gone if Stanford and Cal get into the ACC. So anyway, so what happens there is the Big 12 has benefited, as had the Big 10, by raiding the Pac-12. So the team that has got the black hat, and worthy of rooting for in the Big 12 now is Utah, because they were the last team, standing at the Pac-12 that they just did not want to join the Big 12, and so now they've got the the circle on their back and the bullseye. So if you want to adopt another team that is going to get hated on, my suggestion would be the Utah Utes, because they're going to get all kinds of hell no matter where they go in the conference, because they were one of the last ones in, and they came in screaming and kicking and dragging their way in. They didn't want to join it, and they made it pretty clear they didn't. And which, by the way, in the irony to all this, is that their rival BYU, which they had not played, it's called the Holy War, and they haven't played the Holy War a lot because they just haven't figured out a way to do, to schedule it, or depending upon who you ask, they didn't want to schedule it because they don't like each other. So the Holy War's back on, and it's a conference game. So that's going to be interesting. They onboarded 8 new teams, so there's that. This is the last season of the Pac-12. Now, here's the funny part to this. This is a conference that couldn't get a media deal, right? Yet, a quarter of the conference is in the top 20. So, go figure. The parts of them are, parts are headed to, the Big Ten. Parts are headed to the Big 12. Some, if tomorrow or Saturday things happen, 2 other teams are going to be headed to the ACC. So they were sold off for parts, and they couldn't get a media deal, but they're damn sure cashing in all over the place. But Utah would be your new black hat in the in the new Big 12. So there you go. And we know Texas and Texas and Oklahoma are going to the SEC. I don't think that they're going to be considered black hats because the SEC isn't even seemingly worried about them. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, if it was up to the SEC, they would just say, we don't even need them. Send them to another conference.
Stay where you are.
Ours is good enough. We're still the best. You can add whatever you want to any other conference. We're still the best over here.
Right. Well, their commissioner, Greg Sankey, who has never been shy, about anything. Sankey at the media day, he was asked, the Big Ten has added, Oregon and Washington. They've added, USC and UCLA. What's your reaction to that? He goes, my reaction is until any one of those teams beat us, I don't really care. So, it's like he just laid it down there. Dude, why would I worry? I haven't beat, we still have the national champion. By the way, they steamrolled TCU 70-0. So, there is a cockiness among the SEC. Now, there's one thing I will say about the SEC that other conferences have not looked at, and that is they've stayed within the footprint. They have not gone, way west or north, to places where it just doesn't make sense. They have stayed. I mean, even onboarding Texas, because they already have Texas A&M and Oklahoma. All right, it stays theoretically within that footprint that starts in Florida, goes all the way across to Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas. So you're really not expanding, the footprint. The footprint has stayed the same. Where, we're looking at the Big Ten now, which is basically a national conference. You get teams literally on the East Coast, on the West Coast, and in the center of the country. So that way, the Big Ten can certainly say they're a national conference, but the calling card for the SEC is they just keep winning championships. So, they're like, again, you want to be a national conference? Fantastic. Go ahead and do it. We'll just keep knocking you off when you get to the playoff. So we'll see. And it's a trip, by the way, to witness a game at the Big House to see that, or at Ohio State, or I should say the Ohio State. Penn State, very cool place. So there's a lot of wonderful places to go and have fun and enjoy a college football game, in the Big Ten. And it's the same in the SEC. And frankly, I don't think that there's the Big 12, all of those ACC. Most of those conferences all have schools that enjoy a Saturday afternoon college football game. And if you're a patron for the first time and you go to those games, you'll understand why folks like to come, because they definitely have a good time. Now, one thing I will say, if it's your first game that you're going to go to, do not pick a night game at LSU. That is not a good plan. These guys, know how to eat from that Louisiana Cajun cooking. They also know how to drink. and they can be a pretty rowdy group. So you definitely don't want to make LSU your first trip to Baton Rouge. Let the good time roll, baby. But not or at least if you're gonna do it during a day game. Don't do it at night.
Oh, especially if I'm going to come in there with my Roll Tide.
With your Bama out, yeah. That wouldn't be a plan that I would. Unless you're coming with a group of people, most of whom are over 6'5", I would not consider that a good plan. The irony is, and it's the same way, frankly, with the Big Ten. They hate on each other, but when you argue about, the Big Ten Conference or the SEC, everybody is on your side. So even LSU fans will chirp back if you're on Bama for something, and even Michigan fans might chirp back if you're on Ohio State, because most of the time they're on Ohio State. So it's that one might not be a good analogy, but certainly Wisconsin and the others will take up for their brother in the conference. But yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun season. An interesting team I think people should keep a lookout for is Tulane. Tulane won the Cotton Bowl last year, beating a USC team that had Caleb Williams at quarterback. So there are Cinderella stories in college football. You just have to pay attention. And from a wagering standpoint, there's a lot of smaller colleges that are good value in the wagering aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. You named a great one there, Jim. They were a big moneymaker last year, Tulane. I think they actually won the conference as well, because they beat Houston in the conference championship there. And they come into this season as the 24th ranked team according to AP, but really, this was a team that had one of the best defenses in the entire country last year. So we know how I feel about defense, Jim. Defense wins championships.
Absolutely.
So their offense may not be great, but in a conference like the AAC, their defense will definitely do something for sure.
Yeah, and I think that what they also did last year, Tulane did, is they had a good ball control offense. They had two good running backs, and they just kept feeding the running backs, and then they hit the quarterback would just dink and dunk his way down the field, and he would take what what you give him. If he had the home run shot, if he had that the wide receiver that bolts out there and suddenly got free, he'd find him. And so I think that Tulane is certainly worthy. I think they should have been ranked a little higher than 24th, because frankly, some of those teams ahead of them aren't anywhere nearly as good as they are. But that's the difference in when you look at a Power 5 versus a Group 5 conference situation. And we're very soon going to just be down to, if all goes as planned for Stanford and Cal, and SMU, then we're looking at a Power 4 situation, because there won't be any, there won't be any longer a Pac-12 after this year. So there's that going forward. So it'll be interesting. It's going to be a fun year in college football. It's going to be a fun year in the pro game. There's a lot of new quarterbacks, a lot of new offensive and defensive coordinators, some new coaches to keep an eye on. And what are you thinking about I know it's early, so I'm not going to hold you to anything, but your Cardinals, how are they going to stack up there this season?
You know what, Jim? I hate them. I'm not a Cardinals fan anymore. No, I will say. I
thought you were. Okay, my bad.
I will say one interesting thing I saw is they're the only team in the NFL this year that is not favored in a single game.
That's an interesting stat.
They are an underdog as of right now. If you go look at, because DraftKings apparently has all 18 weeks up for some reason, but if you go look through every single week, they are an underdog in all 17 games. And the one that shocked me, Jim, is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are only favored in one game this season.
Wow, who's that?
I wasn't quite sure.
They play the Cardinals? No.
Yeah, maybe. You know what? I didn't actually look through myself. I saw the stat on Bleacher Report.
That's
They said the Cardinals, because I'm a Cardinals fan, they hit me with that Cardinals notifications like, "Oh, hey, your team's not favored in a single game this year. Bucks are favored in 1, Texans in 3, and there was another team that had only 2 games." But I can try to check that.
This is an upside down world. From look, I don't. There are teams like the Ravens who can win football games and even division titles and be a total dog every time. They basically, I think the Ravens won a number of games last year, maybe 60 or 70%, either on the last possession or a Justin Tucker field goal or whatever. So there are successful teams, I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is there are successful teams that will never cover for you, but they win. And so that stat of covering the spread, I'm not as concerned about as what's the win and loss total of the team. Personally, if I were wagering, I would stay as far away from the Ravens as possible, only because the likelihood of them winning is good. The likelihood of them ever covering is really not very good. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Some teams you want to get as the dog, and sometimes you want to get them as the favorite. And some teams actually have a very good record. Like I know in the MLB, for example, the Baltimore Orioles as a even money to -150 favorite this year. There's something like 40-10 almost, something ridiculous like that for like plus 25 units. So that's when you bet the Orioles, when they're that short favorite line, right? And then there's going to be plenty of football teams we see like that where they're great in that maybe that 0 to 4 point spread, but then anything 4 to 7 they're not covering.
Right. It's funny you bring up the Orioles. I mean, literally, when I was just talking about the Ravens, you can walk across the parking lot from Camden Yard to go to the M&T Bank Stadium, and not if you're watching an Orioles game and then there's a night game of the Ravens, you can, as I said, you can literally walk across the parking lot and get to go right into the other stadium. They're literally next door to each other.
Make it a nice afternoon.
Make it easy. They make it easy on you. It's the same thing in Washington with regard to the soccer. You can go to a soccer game. No, you can't go at night because the MLS doesn't do day games. So you have to go to a Nationals game in the day and then walk over to County Park and watch a soccer game. So there's a lot of Kansas City's that way. Kansas City's got Arrowhead, and Kauffman Stadium next to each other. Pittsburgh has PNC Park is right next to. I'm going to continue to call it Heinz Field. It's not. They have some tech team's name on it.
Jim, my friend in Pittsburgh still calls it Heinz. My buddy who lives in Pittsburgh still calls it Heinz Field. Nobody's calling it Acrisure Stadium, whatever Michigan Insurance Company Stadium.
Right. Billy Kilgrove, who's a truly funny and wonderful man, who has been the voice of the Pittsburgh Steelers since the 70s, when they changed the name to Accenture, is that what it is? Accenture Park?
Acrisure. It's a really weird one. Like I even remember when they signed the deal, everybody was like, "What is this company that's buying it?"
Yeah, he just goes the Clark. It's the street that runs by the stadiums. It's called Clark Street. So he called it the Clark Street. He calls it the Clark Street Coliseum because he can't. Heinz was okay, but no, I'm not doing this. I'm not going there. I'm going to call it the Clark Street Coliseum.
Yeah.
Reason, by the way, for the Clark Street is leads you right to the home and candy factory of the Clark Bar. If you happen to be a fan of the Clark Bar, which is a chocolate-covered peanut butter crunchy candy bar. So, little facts that you don't need to know, but I know them for some reason. So yeah, that's yeah. So I'm glad to hear I'm not the only one that can't remember the name of the stadium.
No, nobody down there is calling it that. Come on, Jim.
They're not. They're still pissed that they tore down Three Rivers. So it's going to be fun and a good year. I mean, speaking of not the Pirates, but speaking of the Steelers, I mean, I was impressed with what Kenny Pickett could do last year. I mean, he waltzed in and he became a very good game manager. I don't know where they are. Who's the favorite in that division? I think we said the Bengals, right?
Yeah, it's the Bengals at plus 140, which doesn't make sense to me because Burrow's out the first few weeks. Got Jamar Chase getting restraining orders on crazy people apparently, and Joe Mixon, who's had so much trouble in the past with the law. Mm-hmm. Like I can't imagine this team with all the distractions coming out of the gate on fire.
Yeah, America's top 10. It's like, yeah.
And then you got the Ravens at plus 2 something, and then it's I believe the Steelers and the Browns. But the Steelers might actually be the biggest.
What was what's the deal on the Browns?
All right, so yeah, it's the Browns at plus 350 and the Steelers at plus 550. So the Browns are the third team to win that division.
So the Browns are ahead of the Steelers in that division?
Yeah, it goes Bengals, Ravens, Browns, Steelers. That's the order.
Woof. That's painful.
And I got it for you here, Jim. Week 13, at home to the Carolina Panthers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a -1 favorite.
A -1. Oh God. Yeah, well that's well. I'm gonna go to my local betting establishment and jump all over that one.
To be fair, there was a lot of games they were only +1 in, like +1 against the Colts, +1 against the Texans, +1 at home to the Falcons, which will probably change by the time we get to that week, I would assume. But there was quite a few +1s in there where they're more like the Titans was another one. So there's a few of those that could easily flip if they get out to a good start.
I mean, did anybody mention the fact that both Carolina and Tennessee are starting, rookie quarterbacks who've never played in the NFL before? I mean, come on.
Doesn't matter. Apparently, Baker Mayfield is worse, and the entire Tampa, defense, they don't have one apparently, and it's not like Todd Bowles is the coach or anything. So their team is just trash.
Well, we'll see. That's why, as Kenny Mayne once said on ESPN, games aren't played on paper; they're played on television, and we will see soon enough. Quick update on today's baseball. The Royals and the Mariners have finished the first inning, and it's a scoreless game between your hot Mariners and the Royals. So we're talking about Kansas City, and so son of a gun. There's
65 and 55, Jim. They're coming for the Jays.
They're 10 games over the 500 mark, and you gotta love the fact that they're playing in Kansas City. That's certainly helpful. Red Sox at the Nats. That's a 4:05 start, which is, by the way, for those wondering, the Nationals for some reason start their afternoon games on a Wednesday or Thursday afternoon at 4:05, in large part because they can get a walk up from from the area where guys will people will take off in the summertime, maybe take off a little and blow off the afternoon. You can still come back from lunch and do a little work and then make it to the ballpark by 4:05. 7:15 tonight, Tigers Guardians. Big game for the Guardians if they want to stay in. In the hunt. That's a big one. By the way, that game is going to be on Fox tonight, so it's a national game. I have no idea why. But okay, fair.
That's an interesting one, Jim, just because skee ball has been trash on the road, but the Guardians, but the Guardian, no worries, but the Guardians can't seem to hit lefties. So,
well, there you go.
It's going to be offered to them. They have the chance. He's not pitching well on the road, but can they hit the lefty is the question.
And the backup game on Fox, which also starts at 7:15, is the Mets and the Cardinals. And I guess contractually they're obligated to put a game on a Thursday night because those two games are dogs. I have no clue as to why. The only reason they've got them on is there are only 2 games that can be played in that time slot. Everything else is either in the afternoon or too late.
Literally, Jim. There's 6 games today, and even they felt handcuffed by the.
Yeah, they're like, oh crap, we got to put the game on TV, and we're paying for it. The Diamondbacks and the Padres. That game is a 9:40 start. You got Gellion, a right-handed pitcher for Arizona, and Mr. Hill on the hill for San Diego, and of course he's a left-hander. Dodgers, who just don't seem to want to lose anymore, taking on the Brew Crew. It's Burns for Milwaukee. It is Lynn for your Los Angeles Dodgers. So that's the way it goes in Major League Baseball tonight. As you say, 6 games on the slate, and not as much fun. Let's take a quick look tomorrow, because this will be the weekend series. So let's kind of take a quick look and go ahead. Royals Cubs, that's the series over the weekend. Blue Jays Reds, that's a big series for both those teams because both of them are in the hunt and they want to not have trouble with that. Phillies are in town in Washington to play the Nationals. You got the Red Sox and the Yankees. I swear if they put that game on national television, it is. Well, I say that it's the Apple Plus game, so okay, they've already done it. Nobody cares, guys. Those are the 2 guys. Those are the bottom feeders of the division. So yeah, we want to see them. Guardians Tigers. That's gonna be interesting. Giants in Atlanta to face the Braves. That could be a long weekend for the G-men. We'll see. The Brewers are in Arlington to face the Rangers. The Mariners, Astros. Ooh, your Astros have a tough weekend in Houston. The Pirates and the Twins, for those family members who want to watch their team play. Mets Cardinals, we established that game. It's a 4-game set. Mets Cardinals tomorrow night. White Sox are out at Coors Field to face the Rockies. The Rays and the Angels. That's the game where we will see. It's a 9:38 start, 9:40 start. There's the Orioles and the Athletics. That might be some on Amadeus' card tomorrow. I don't know. Not going to bury the lead on that. Diamondbacks are at the Padres. The Marlins are in Los Angeles to Chavez Ravine to play the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium. So that's tomorrow's look at what's going on in baseball. Now, any thoughts? Any thoughts on upcoming on the upcoming World Cup women's final?
I'm obviously I'm going to take Spain just because I gave them out at the beginning of the tournament. They've made it this far. I was down on England to start the tournament. They've made it this far, so it makes perfect sense to me. Spain wins the Women's World Cup. I do think they definitely have the better team the way they've been playing in this tournament. The only thing that worries me about Spain is if they get too aggressive, then England might be able to counter them and really rip apart that defense that has holes in it at time. But if they can maintain their back line, England's attack hasn't been great. I know they blew Australia out like 3-1, but that was like a 1-1 match up until the last 10 or so minutes when Australia kind of just conked out. So definitely, I like Spain.
Well, there's no reason not to. I think that part of me would have liked to have seen Australia be able to pull through and if nothing else, get the chance to play for the title. But good on them for as far as they came. I mean, they really did, head deep into the difference. So yeah, I mean, it's good that they got what they needed, and the fans are going to be there and they're going to root, and probably, to be honest, I would think this might be because of Australia. This might be a very pro, England crowd. What do you think?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I could see there being a lot of English fans there. It seems like there's more in Australia than the Spanish, just by numbers. So
Mhm.
I would say that's a pretty fair assessment that you'll see more England fans in the building than Spain. But how much of a difference, I really couldn't tell you, because there could be just a lot of neutral
Yeah,
supporters there as well.
absolutely. And you never really know in situations like this, especially like you just brought up the point of uh, of neutral fans, right? Sometimes something during the course of the game will flip a switch, and suddenly, and I've seen this at the U.S. Open tennis, right, where they'll be pulling for somebody, and then you know the person will make and this is usually a guy like Djokovic, right, who they're not really a fan of, but Djokovic will play, he'll make some ridiculous, deal, and bing bang boom, everybody's now behind Joker, and I mean, of course, it is a New York fan base; they can change on a dime, but it definitely is, interesting to see what's. Because I'll tell you, that's going to be a lot of fun to watch, on early in the morning, but it'll be fun to watch. Um, what else we're going to talk about here? We talked about Messi and the possibility of him taking home a trophy at the end of the day, in Nashville, and that ought to be fun. And I know that Nashville has become a very good sports town. They've done a wonderful job of supporting, the hockey team. They've done an outstanding job of keeping, the Tennessee Titans building full. I mean, it's really kind of, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun to see how that plays out.
Yeah,
So
definitely. They filled the stadiums for sure. So we'll see. Obviously, you could get the Messi fans to show up. You could get the Nashville fans to show up. Either way, the building's going to be full, and either way, I don't think it's going to matter, because I don't know
good point. Yeah.
if Philadelphia couldn't stop this team, and it was like 4-0 by halftime at Subaru
Uh-huh.
Park, then there's no way. I'm not trying to knock Nashville or anything. They're a very good team in the MLS, and they are very good at home. But Philadelphia is just playing better, and Philadelphia got smoked. So I think at this point, it doesn't matter where Messi's playing, whether he's home or away, because there's always Messi fans in the building. So every game's somewhat of a home game for him. And at this point, he's just so far above the talent in the rest of the league that it frankly doesn't matter where he plays.
Let me ask you a question with this. With the MLS, and we've kind of talked about this at one point in time. How do you think it's a good plan to go and find some of these superstar players who are on the tail end of their career and bring them in and infuse different fan bases around the league by bringing in, an aging star? I mean, you're not going to find a Messi, but there are a number of them. I know this: when Wayne Rooney came and played for a brief period of time for DC United before returning to be their coach, that was definitely a boon to them. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so definitely from a marketing standpoint, it's great, because you're filling the stadiums with people, you're bringing eyeballs to the game.
Mhm.
Now, Where I have a problem with it is if you're actually trying to build the talent in the league.
Mhm.
If you are actually trying to make the league as a whole better and improve the quality of play from all teams in the league, then they're going about this absolutely the wrong way by bringing in stars like this who are at the tail end of their career. They should be focused more on how the Brazilian league does it. They breed young stars and have them playing by 16 because they're sold and off to Europe by the time before they even hit the age of 20. Jim.
Right.
So I think really if they're looking to improve the quality of talent in the league, that's the way to do it. But if they're just trying to, keep the league afloat and keep the money rolling in, then what they're doing is fine because it's always going to work. And, there's always going to be an aging star somewhere who's not good enough. Well, not necessarily not good enough, but can't keep up at the same, level in Europe that they can play over here in North America. So absolutely, we saw Zlatan obviously come and play here when he's been at the tail end of his career for a while now. He even went back to AC Milan after. Never really played there, but was a solid leader figure. Was a big reason why we won the title that 1 year, 2 years ago. But yeah, you see it all the time. I think also, they're trying to set up because Carlos Vela is set to leave LAFC in December. So they've kind of, they've brought back a star now. Plus they're getting Luis Suarez in December. And there's other guys who maybe aren't as big that are around the league. Like I know Timu Pukki recently came to the Minnesota United. He's a massive, he's Finland's striker there. He was playing on Norwich for years, and I guess he got tired of playing in the championship, so he came over here. But yeah, that's a good addition, and I think definitely any Finnish people in the Minnesota area, they'll go out to support him because I love Timu Pukki. I think he's definitely one of the better. He still plays for the national team as well, so it's not like he's at the end of his career. He still has stuff left in the tank, so. It's interesting the way they're going about it, but yeah, it's a question of how does the MLS want to grow? Do they just want to grow viewership and popularity, or are they actually trying to improve the league and try and get it on the same talent level as the Premier League and these other European leagues?
Well, I spoke to Rooney when he came as a player, and I asked him why, and he said, he goes, I've accomplished everything I need to accomplish as far as, what my goals are. He said, but I thought if I could come here and I could help teach these kids how to play, then that would be, so he goes, he goes, the kids in Britain, he goes, if I play in the English, Premier League or wherever, he said, they're not going to pay attention to me. He said, but these kids, they'll pay attention to me. And so he said, I will mentor them. I will try to keep them, I'll try to, by my play, make them better at what they do. And I thought, well, that's okay. I mean, that's somebody who, understands that, he's paying it forward, only he's doing it on the field. And I'm not saying Messi's doing that because I don't know what he's doing. I mean, he's just basically being himself. But then again, they surrounded him with some players that, as you know, and you chronicled it very well, that they're used to playing. I mean, he's used to playing with these guys. Nobody on the team when he came to DC, had played, anywhere near with it. But yeah, it was just a different take on it that I thought was kind of interesting. So perhaps you can kind of a hybrid thing, right? You can have a player who's a good player from another country and begin and continue to ease your players on the field and maybe even make yourself better because you've got this, this aging star who can help you out if indeed they're willing to do that.
Yeah, you know what? And I think it speaks a lot more so to the player. Because obviously we've seen what Messi's doing, and he's still trying to get guys from 2015 Barcelona.
Right.
Now, what that shows me is Messi doesn't have that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
He came here to have fun and play with his friends. That is what he has been showing me. yeah, winning is coming along with it because of the talent. They're just so far above the rest of the league.
Mhm.
But I think from that standpoint, it's very clear his mindset is, I just want to have fun and play with my friends. I don't want all this, pressure on me. I went to one of the worst teams in the MLS, so I'm not going to have any major expectations right away, even though he's setting the bar super high.
Mhm.
Rooney, on the other hand, this is a guy who he coached Derby County in the championship.
Mhm.
He came over here and coached DC United and is still the coach right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he's also, he might leave DC, but he might leave for another coaching job. So this is a player that with that specific mindset where he wants to shape the future generation of stars. And you can see that. See, Messi, on the other hand, it's not a knock on his skill.
Right.
But when it comes to coaching, I don't think he has it in him.
No, I would agree.
Person.
Sometimes people will say, "Well, gosh, why did Larry Bird not succeed as a coach?" And I said that's because he's holding everybody on the team to the standard of Larry Bird. There's one Larry Bird. There's not. You're not going to go out there and coach Indiana and find 5 Larry Birds. It doesn't work that way. So,
exactly.
At the end of the day, sometimes superstars, can make, you can make good managers and coaches. Sometimes, they don't. I mean, look at the NFL. Most of the coaches in the NFL were not good football players. Some of them weren't even football players. I mean, they, professional football players. So it just depends on, who's good at what they do. And, you look at Phil Jackson wasn't a bad basketball player for the Knicks when he played there, but he obviously is a better coach. Joe Torre wasn't a bad baseball player in his career, but he excelled better as a coach and as a manager. Dusty Baker, another one who was an outstanding baseball player, but is now known as a very good manager. So.
I think Dion's even a great example of that because I know we like to talk a lot about how maybe that he's not going to do great this year, but he went about it in the exactly correct way. He dipped his toes in the FCS first.
Yeah.
Saw, maybe if I go there, can I coach? First of all and foremost, can I coach? Now, can I coach the team to win? Can I coach the team to championship? Now, he never found that championship, but, they were a consistent playoff team. Now he's taken a step up, and obviously this is a big jump. But, yeah, he's a guy that has it in him. Another guy who doesn't have it in him is Patrick Ewing. And the day he, hangs up the basketball shoes over at Georgetown, I'm sure everybody will be singing his graces then. But as far as what we've seen, he's a guy that dipped into coaching and just doesn't have it in him.
Yeah, I mean, and the funny thing about that is that Patrick was very had spent a lot of years in the NBA coaching, as an assistant coach and basically coaching the centers and the power forwards. But when he got to college, they found that he wasn't a good recruiter and that he wasn't necessarily a good, X's and O's coach. Doesn't make him a bad, coordinator, but it definitely does bode that perhaps he might have been better suited doing broadcasting than maybe he was as a coach. It's a situation where, look, I have great respect for Patrick. He's a good guy. I've seen his coaching at. I don't think he's coaching at Georgetown anymore. They fired him.
Did they fire him? Okay, yeah. So he was. He
was for a long time. I mean, Joe. When John Jr., Big John,
up to last season, he was definitely the coach.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, I haven't followed much in the offseason if they ended up firing him or not. Like I said, that's something.
My niece is a Georgetown grad, so she keeps me up to speed on what's going on with Georgetown. Georgetown. I think Georgetown fired him, which can't be easy for them too because he's one of their own. But you gotta have somebody in there that. Look what Shaka Smart has done. He would be at VCU and then he went up to Marquette. Some of these guys, deserve deserve to coach. And as we said before, doesn't always. I don't know that. I can't remember. There are very few former pro players who go to college and become good coaches. Now, there's Larry Brown, has had a pretty good run in college and in pro. And Larry was a good basketball player. People forget that he was a guard on the Kentucky Colonels in the ABA and a fine one. So there were some of these guys who left the NBA and became decent coaches in college, but it's a whole different game. I mean, and it's even now a more interesting game because you have the portal. If a kid doesn't like what he's playing, you can get in the portal and suddenly you've got an instant team. So I think that's the games have changed drastically, but coaching, we'll see. And I agree with you. I don't think Messi wants to be a coach because he's having too much fun as a star. Rooney, on the other hand, likes being a coach because I think that's what he, even when he was playing at his best on the field, you would always see him pointing, to other players on the team, where to go and how to get there. And he was managing the team on the field. So, I think that is to your point, is one guy's built for that, the other guy isn't. That's not a shot at anybody. It just means that, one guy enjoys doing that, one guy not so much.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right, Jim? Sometimes the best players in the world, they just can't coach at the same level that the guy who was warming your bench spot and playing, 2 to 5 minutes a game
and watching everybody play.
Exactly, he might be one of the better coaches in the world, right, for all we know, right? And that's all maybe a reason why a lot of former players who didn't play a lot go to coaching, because maybe they always had that dog in them and they knew what needed to be done but couldn't execute it themselves.
Right. There you go. All right, so let's talk about you. Let's talk about what we can see if we go to your link, which of course is in the show box below. Don't forget that. And what do we got tonight, or should we continue to look not just tonight, but obviously there's going to be a bunch of stuff over the weekend.
Yeah, so you can get my plays at bigal.com and pickadvisor.com. The links are in the description below. And all I have up tonight is just the one MLB play. It's a slow Thursday pretty much all around in every league. And but you could definitely expect we'll have some soccer, some baseball up tomorrow and for the weekend. Obviously, we have the 3 big European leagues came back last week. And you know what? Italy and Germany join them this week. So I believe it's this week. But so we're definitely going to have a lot of soccer kicking off this weekend.
Oh, great. That'll be good. One quick note for our buddy Rye, big weekend in stock car racing. So if you're a stock car fan, jump on there and find our buddy Rye. He definitely knows what he's talking about. So anyhow, we will be back Friday, which is tomorrow, and we'll be full bear ready to rock and roll and talk about all these things that we just previewed. So until then, have a nice afternoon. For Amadeus, I'm Jim. Take care. Bye.